we make a car that has no steering wheels or pedals. And if we need to accelerate that time, we can always just delete parts, easy. We'll have over 1 million Tesla cars on the road with full self-driving hardware, feature complete at a reliability level that we would consider that no one needs to pay attention.
But what I can say is we're going to move to just truly massive scale that no company has ever achieved in the history of humanity. That has to happen in order to transition the world to sustainable energy. So massive scale, full self-driving. There's going to be a dedicated ROBOTAXI. That's going to look it's going to look quite futuristic.
In the future, consumers will want to outlaw people driving their own cars because it is unsafe. Today is that it's financially insane to buy anything other than a Tesla.
We're also working on a new vehicle that I alluded to at the Giga Texas opening, which is a dedicated ROBOTAXI.
Yes, artificial intelligence is certainly going to profoundly change the world. I mean, one of the most significant ways is self-driving. We've been putting a lot of effort into self-driving, but I think we're quite close to having the car be fully autonomous. So for example, like right now, I'm in Austin, and if I wanted to drive, say, to the airport, the car could take me to the airport with no interventions. And all it's using are digital neural nets, in other words, artificial intelligence, and cameras. So there's no LiDAR, radar, nothing.
So going over just like TESLA master plan, obviously we've made a bunch of forward-looking statements, as they call it. What we're going to do this year is we're going to reach combined production of 10,000 a week between SX and 3. Next year, we'll expand the product line with Model Y and Semi, and we expect to have the first operating robotaxis next year with no one in them. Not in all jurisdictions because we won't have regulatory approval everywhere, but I'm confident we'll have at least regulatory approval somewhere literally next year. So any customer will be able to add or remove their car to the Tesla network. So we expect this to operate is sort of like a combination of maybe the Uber and Airbnb model, and Tesla would take 25 or 30% of the revenue. In places where there aren't enough people sharing their cars, we would just have dedicated Tesla vehicles. When you use the car, we'll show you our ride-sharing app. So you'll be able to summon the car from the parking lot, get in and go for a drive. So you just take the same Tesla app that you currently have, we'll update the app and add a summon Tesla or commit your car to the fleet. Potential for smoothing out the demand distribution curve and having the car operate at a much higher utility than a normal car operates. We'll do Model 3, S3 and X as taxis, but we made an important change to our leases. So if you lease a Model 3, you don't have the option of buying it at the end of the lease. So the current cost of Model 3 RoboTaxi is less than $38,000. We expect that number to improve over time. The new battery pack that probably go into production next year is designed explicitly for 1 million miles of operation. And at some point, you won't need steering wheels or pedals, and we'll just delete those. So as these things become less and less important, we'll just delete parts. They won't be there. 2 years from now, we make a car that has no steering wheels or pedals. And if we need to accelerate that time, we can always just delete parts, easy. Maybe it ends up being $25,000 or less. So we're currently at 4.5 miles per kilowatt hour, but we'll improve that to 5 and beyond. We've got the vehicle design and manufacturing. We've got the computer hardware in-house. We've got the in-house software development and AI, and we've got by far the biggest fleet. If you say, what would be the probable gross profit from a single robotaxi? We think probably something on the order of $30,000 per year. So in nominal dollars, that would be, a little over $300,000 over the course of 11 years. It might be higher. I think these consumptions are actually relatively conservative. By the middle of next year, we'll have over 1 million Tesla cars on the road with full self-driving hardware, feature complete at a reliability level that we would consider that no one needs to pay attention. We will have over 1 million robotaxis on the road. The fleet wakes up with an over-the-air update. That's all it takes. People will be able to take over and should be able to take over from the robotaxi. And then once regulators are comfortable with us not having steering wheel, we'll just delete that. And for cars that are in the fleet, obviously with the permission of the owner, if it's owned by somebody else, we would just take the steering wheel off and put a cap where the steering wheel currently attaches. In the future, consumers will want to outlaw people driving their own cars because it is unsafe. If you think of like elevators used to be operated on a big lever, like you go up and down the floor, and there's like a big relay, and you had elevator operators, but then periodically they would get tired or drunk or something, and then they'd turn the lever at the wrong time and sever somebody in half. So now you do not have elevator operators, and it would be quite alarming if you went into an elevator that had a big lever that could just move between floors arbitrarily. So there's just buttons. And in the long term, again, not a value judgment, I'm not saying I want the world to be this way. I'm saying consumers will most likely demand that the people are not allowed to drive cars. Really fundamental message that consumers should be taking today is that it's financially insane to buy anything other than a Tesla.
We're also working on a new vehicle that I alluded to at the Texas opening, which is a dedicated ROBOTAXI that's highly optimized for autonomy, meaning it would not have steering wheel or pedals.
Yes, artificial intelligence is certainly going to profoundly change the world. One of the most significant ways is self-driving. We've been putting a lot of effort into self-driving technology for cars. You don't see it quite as much in Europe because we first have to make it work in the US before we increase the complexity of trying to make it elsewhere in the world. But I think we're quite close to having the car be fully autonomous. So for example, like right now, I'm in Austin, and if I wanted to drive, say, to the airport, the car could take me to the airport with no interventions. And all it's using are digital neural nets, in other words, artificial intelligence, and cameras. So there's no LiDAR, radar, nothing. In fact, if you think about how humans drive cars, humans are biological neural nets, and we use eyes. So it's the eyes and biological neural nets. The analog is, or digital, the analog for digital is cameras and digital neural nets. This is working remarkably well. It has been quite difficult to do this because it turns out that in order for this to work, the car has to really be quite fully intelligent. Really, as a subset, for example, it has to learn how to read everything and how to assess intention among drivers and pedestrians. So you're end up creating sort of a baby artificial general intelligence to solve this. This will obviously be extremely profound, and obviously I'm talking about automotive here. I'll get into the broader question in a minute. The average use of a passenger vehicle is only about 10 hours per week out of 168 hours. At the point at which it is autonomous, I think you would see probably a third of the hours being used because it would be like a taxi. Maybe my guess is like 50 to 60 hours, which means that the utility of a passenger vehicle would increase by a factor of 5. And this is gigantic. That's automotive. Then there's what people I think have certainly experienced online, where you can ask it a question and ask for an essay or a picture or to understand a picture, and that is progressing rapidly. What I'm seeing in terms of AI compute is I've never seen any technology advance faster than this. The artificial intelligence compute coming online appears to be increasing by a factor of 10 every 6 months. Obviously, that cannot continue at such a high rate for forever, or it will exceed the mass of the universe, but I've never seen anything like it. And this is why you see NVIDIA's market cap being so gigantic, because they currently have the best neural net chips. I mean, I think didn't NVIDIA's market cap exceed the GDP of Canada or something recently? Anyway, it was quite high. And it may go higher, who knows? The chip rush is bigger than any gold rush that has ever existed.
Obviously, we've got some new products that we're working on under the covers. And I think these are going to be pretty special. So, some of them, I think people maybe at first may think, oh, it's not going to be that amazing, but just wait. It will be. So.